Welcome back, everyone, to Beyond Survival, the place where we get to explore what comes after survival. And our working title this week is It's the Hard Drive, Not the Software, and we're looking at the space that holds the memory.
I thought it was not the hard drive; it's the software.
It's the hard drive, not the software.
No, it's not the It's not the hard drive; it's the software.
Oh.
The hard drive's the body.
It's the hard drive is what I've got here.
Yeah.
So is it
It's
not
the hard drive, it's the software.
Okay, I thought, well,
Because
that's...
it's very, it's
Yeah, because the hard drive is the body.
I know, but
that's the part that we leave behind.
it's the
Everything else we
subjective,
take with
it's
us.
the
Okay, it's not...
I'm going to start again.
Okay. Okay, Geraldine. You go for it.
Okay, well then, how did I get that wrong then?
Oh, you probably just heard it wrong and wrote it down wrong, and then everybody's just
I
repeated.
I actually wrote down from last week. Anyway,
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's not the hard drive, it's
No.
the software.
Yes.
Well, I
That's
can
all right,
explain
everything
that at some point.
changes with
You can
project.
explain that at some point, Kel.
Yeah.
Okay, 3, 2, 1. Welcome back to Beyond Survival, our place there where we get to explore what is beyond survival. So our working title this week is It's Not the Hard Drive, It's the Software.
Yeah.
And we have a big discussion on it's a space that holds the memory and what's my purpose.
Yeah.
So we're going in deep this week.
And really it's a follow-on from a few episodes ago, which I've just posted actually, because we're always filming 2 weeks ahead, of like, who am I? What's your purpose? Kind of meets that territory as well. It kind of goes into that territory.
And
So
our
that
producer,
gives you a little hint about, it's not the hardware, i.e. the body, it's the software, i.e. the spirit.
as we are talking all things art, spirit
and geopolitics. And that kind of leads me in to I do a lot of reading of especially from the Bulwark and Legal AF, Ezra, Pivot. They're all the political podcasts I watch, along with the Australian ones, of course. But today I came across an article. I'm often reading JVL's articles from the Bulwark. Very good writer, does a great newsletter as well. But in particular today, because I was watching all this different little newsreels about, the speed at which Trump is moving and how scary that is for America and therefore the world as well. And of course, as we said last week, they invoked that Section 740 law, and they've brought in all the National Guards into the Capitol. And now they're talking about doing Chicago. And again, this is all a play towards being able, the gerrymandering sort of, part of that process, and trying to shift things so that they've got control, because they know that with the midterms coming up, they're probably going to lose a number of seats in the House. Well, we hope so anyway. But they're doing everything they can legally, actually it's not legally, they're doing everything to break all the laws, break all the, all the norms that come with those laws and the Constitution to be able to basically turn America into autocracy. And I don't even think F-47 I think he's doing this all for Putin. I think he wants America to end up becoming part of the USSR, because when the Putin and they met, that's another story, when they met recently in
Alaska.
I don't even think it was the real Putin. I think it was his double. And there's a lot of journalists. I was reading a lot of journalists on Perplexity, where they sort of there's been a lot of discussion from the journalists saying it doesn't look like Putin. I mean, putting funny faces, even his height, even his chin is not matching. Like when he was facing Trump on the red carpet and his chin, and I thought I wouldn't put it past him, because first of all, Putin's a bit of a germphobe. He doesn't even sit with his own people, right? He sits miles at a table away from them because of his fear of whatever. Maybe someone's going to poison him or give him a dose of his own treatment. What's that drug that he uses all the time to kill off his opponents?
Something savage and
Yeah, well, it's very instant and very, fatal.
cyanide.
No, yeah, it's something else. I forget what it's called now.
Someone out there knows.
Spies use.
Yeah, it's the one that
whatever
spied.
Russian
It was
spies.
international law
Yeah.
literally ruled it out even for spies many years ago, but he still uses it. So, and everybody knows in Russia that he has two very particular doubles that he uses to go out and do the factory handshaking and a few those sort of things. So I cannot imagine him being, in his bunker and taking the risk to get on the plane and go and meet with Trump. And I think Trump knew. I think that's why the meeting was so short. They didn't do the lunch. I think he was expecting Putin and realised straight away on the red carpet, this ain't Putin, and called them out on it. They had their private meeting first before they sort of did the press. But no questions were allowed. I mean, it was just the most bizarre, horrendous thing. Anyway, so then I come across, just this morning actually, I often do my reading about 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, as these two know, and I came across it, and I just want to read the first bit of the things that Trump has done just in a very short period of time in the last week. It's so if we go, I just read. It's been 2 weeks since the President of the United States ordered a military occupation of the nation's capital. I understand that it feels longer, but I wanted to highlight for you 2 things. 1, the pace at which we are moving, and 2, how Trump employs a mix of the ridiculous and the dangerous. Shout out to JBL. Love your writing. August the 11th, Trump announces he is deploying National Guard troops to take over the Washington, D.C. August the 13th, Trump declares that he has personally chosen the recipients of the Kennedy Center Honours for 2025. August the 15th, so 2 days apart most of these, Trump greets Vladimir Putin in Alaska with the red carpet rolled out by kneeling American soldiers and literal applause. August the 22nd, Trump announces that the US government has taken a 10% ownership stake in Intel. August the 24th, you have to laugh because it's just too ridiculous and sad and scary that if you don't laugh, you're going to go mad. August the 24th, Trump demands that the Baseball Hall of Fame admit Robert Clemens. August the 25th, Trump announces that he has removed Lisa Cook from the Federal Reserve Board of Governors. And August the 26th, 1 day later, Trump instructs Cracker Barrel, which is apparently a chain of restaurants in America, or bar or something that's been around for a long time and very sort of, apparently the logo was quite fun. Anyway, instructed them to abandon their new company logo because they changed, made it more PC. We know how he hates PC, so we'll call it PC. This is why you're exhausted, says JVL.
Yeah.
And isn't that the truth? I mean, we're not even American. We don't even live in America. We're just watching it daily.
Here we are in Australia.
And it exhausts me. I get exhausted every time I sort of, turn on the news and watch. And then I sort of go to the Australian news, and then I go to the UK news, and I'm watching what's kind of playing out there and how it affects Europe and everything. And it's like, man, it's so furious and fast. And I don't know how you guys feel about that, Stephanie and Geraldine, but I find it quite exhausting to even keep up with it. I cannot even imagine how Americans are feeling about it. I mean, this shit just got really scary. I mean, every day it feels like I say, just got scarier.
Well, it is impacting Australia.
Oh, 100%.
Australia Post just announced that they won't be sending parcels to
America because of the
US
tariffs.
because of the tariffs.
Yeah.
And the cost. And the impost on them.
Yeah, and you know what? The other thing I looked up, I don't think we've mentioned this in the podcast, but just before our election, or around the same time, there was a government petition going out. We can have government petitions. You can evoke a government petition to request that the House rule that no Trump, not Trump or his family or anyone from his cabinet, to ban them coming into Australia. That's how Australians feel about it, right? That's how scary these people are to us. We've still got the whole AUKUS thing going on in the background. We still, doing the business with tariffs, not knowing from one day to the next what's happening with that. We have a lot of smaller businesses, private enterprise businesses in Australia that send their goods to America, and a lot of that hasn't been able to happen because they just don't know what price it's going to be, and so a lot of the orders have been cancelled because
coming
people
through right now.
who are selling them. So, so you're seeing
yeah.
it now, and I think what you'll see even more so, so far the economy is holding over there, but that holding pattern's not going to last long. The tariffs are eventually, and all the heinous things that they've done financially to America and therefore the world, that's going to start showing in October, I reckon. At the latest, but probably you won't hear about it or see it until October, November. We're in August. So I just wanted to read that out because when I read that, and it was a very succinct way of presenting, you know, essentially almost 2 weeks of, a little bit over 10 days of news anyway. And, you know, it kind of encapsulates the craziness and the speed at which F47's administration is working. And we have to be mindful and we have to be onto this all the time and watch what's going on because, simply, it plays into the rest of the world and what's happening.
It is, absolutely. Which makes me want a tea break.
I know. Well, I want to pour you a cup of tea before, and I think that's all we want to say today. Geraldine's going to touch on some other political issues later to do directly with Australia.
Yeah.
And so we'd go there. But I think for now, I think JVL has put it in a nutshell for us. Very, you know, that is succinct and you can understand the depths of what's going on. And I think that's all we need to do in that
Let's all have
story.
a
Then so that we can get to the good stuff, talking about the good stuff, the things you can do to make ourselves feel better. But before we do that, I'm going to pour Geraldine a cup of tea.
Thank you.
Whose phone is not on silent?
Mine.
Okay, because it keeps pinning.
I know. I'm going to turn
Well,
it
she
down.
can't put it on silent, love, because it's recording. So
my phone is.
Oh, another phone.
Yeah, sorry, I can put it on silence because it's still.
Good. Yeah, I just wanted to read that little bit because I thought
if,
it was the first thing that hit me this morning. I thought it was a lovely, succinct way of giving you an idea of what the Americans are having to wake up to every morning. The poor, bless their hearts. Shout out to all the Americans. We're with you.
So it doesn't.
Can't stand your government at the moment, but we still love you.
Milk, please.
Oh yes, sorry, love.
Oh, excuse me.
Is that enough?
Yeah.
What milk have you used?
Full cream.
It is full cream. I must make a really strong cup of tea.
You do.
Oh, and we'll just do a quick
more milk.
more milk. Is that enough? And don't forget, you've got the hot water on your side, love.
Yeah, it's very.
And we've got our famous brandy, I suppose it is. We want to call them rumbles.
Did you put brandy in there?
I did put brandy in this time.
Okay.
Just a little bit. They're bliss balls with brandy. We like to play both sides of the fence here. And these are what, I don't know whether you guys have in your countries, ginger snaps. And they're just delicious. Ginger nut snaps. And these are lime, because we made all these. And these are lime and chili soya things. And they're so good. And then we had 3 birthdays last couple of weeks. Our 3 Leos, Stephanie, Maria, and Lois. And we made it was meant to be a red velvet cake, which is really essentially a chocolate cake with red colouring, and butter icing. It's delicious anyway. And Lois used cacao instead of cocoa.
Oh, yeah.
Which is healthy, I guess.
Yes, yeah.
And you know what? It still tastes good, doesn't it?
Oh, yeah.
You missed the afternoon too. We had a great time.
Yeah.
We did have a great time.
Yes.
But you get to eat the cake today.
I do. Fantastic.
So they're the recipes, and again, we'll post them to Substack as the recipes for this episode. Anyway, back to you,
Episode
Geraldine.
7. You can introduce us, but I think people probably have seen previous episodes. I'm Geraldine. This is
I'm
Kelli. And
this is
our
Gizmo.
sleeping friend here is Gizmo.
Gizmo's having a little
And our producer
nap
in
at
the
the
background is Stephanie.
Hello. The one that doesn't get the tea and cake.
Oh my goodness, you do too. You steal it. You come and steal it every time.
I'm going to come and steal some cake.
Okay.
Yes, but I don't
yeah,
want to.
yeah.
Who does it? Is anyone else having cake? You, Geraldine,
Yeah.
you wanna have the big
Do you
one
want
at the front.
Do you want to get the little bit at the back?
Yeah.
So, do you know what?
Okay. Like, while we're doing this, put some on my plate.
Yeah. And then we can take away the leaf.
But I don't know the. Yeah. Okay.
So you put, just take the whole piece, and then just put the whole piece,
Yep,
and then we can take the leaf away.
Let's move the leaf.
That's it. Oh, look at that! This is my favourite. I like the little savoury bits here. You can make, anyone can make these. You can just get the soya chips that are plain, and you can mix up whatever. We got these from Moses Pantry, and they pretty much do something. But you can put whatever flavours you want in that spice wise.
Yum.
And then you just put them in a bag, put the spices in them, give it a good shake,
Yes.
spread them out to dry. Bob's your uncle.
Great. Are they gluten free?
I think they're soya.
Yeah,
They've got no
soya.
wheat. They've got no wheat.
Okay.
I don't think they've got gluten.
Soy base.
No,
Okay.
soy base.
So, yeah, a lot has happened in Australia, so it really is like watch this space.
Okay.
So I thought I'd just introduce, sort of take the heat away from the politics, because the politics is, I find it overwhelming. Just in
Steph,
case.
can you? Oh, I'm slipping. My back's going again. I have an alternate nut, because of my disability, my mobility issues. No, not that one. No, it's the ultimate.
Oh, for God's sake. You just
Pushing it in,
you just
pushing it
don't
in.
like me sitting down. That's what it
Yeah.
is.
Well, you know, it's good exercise. Says she who can't. Well, hang on, I do.
Is
do
it
hard
in?
joke. Yeah, that's better.
Okay.
That's better. It's just
Sure.
if I'm not sitting right, if I don't
Yeah, we
get in the right spot, and I've got my legs, because I've got my legs up. So it's all to do with my mobility issues. No big drama, but I do need to be comfortable.
We all need to be comfortable. Is
Okay.
everybody comfortable?
We're comfortable.
I'm almost comfortable.
Stephanie's almost comfortable.
Alright.
Well, I like to introduce what I'm reading.
Yes,
And
please
I'm
do.
reading Long Path by Ari Wallach, and not a new book, but it's a really amazing. It's
Before
a book
you start
of
on
our
that,
times.
Can you hold the heading up again?
Sorry, just before you start on that,
Geraldine?
were you going to give notes on what you were talking about for the Australian government stuff, or is it intertwined?
Well, where do we start with this Australian government stuff?
Well,
Well, I mentioned what's happening with Australia Post and how that's going to impact small businesses. And
well, it already has, yeah. Hear
Is
about
that
that.
just in America though?
Yeah, because of
the tariffs have just been really
hitting.
starting to hit, and it's hitting our small businesses. Obviously, it's designed for America to for American businesses to utilise, but the thing is, we are a world economy, aren't we? And,
and have been for a very long time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not anything new.
And we all interact, so it's not just parcels and packages through Australia Post, it's parcels and packages coming from other countries too, and then, it's the whole passage that's being taxed, and I think, you can't see that's
No, but you know what?
pullable under the rug from under small businesses.
Even from the existing tax, and it is a tax. It's a tax for the people, American people. It's not the Australian government that has to pay it, as Trump would say. It's got nothing to do with debt, as he tries to always sell it as. It's just simply a tax that the American people will pay at the end point of the sale. So that means that the people, a lot of the private enterprises here that do like mail orders, I can think of Mulberry Threads, right? Beautiful boutique style, small business, a couple of women. They used to have a stall at one of my expos and markets and also festivals. So, and they launched that way. So they've come from the grassroots up, and this is quite a common story in Australia. And they just do bamboo sheets, organic bamboo sheets. That's where they started, and then they get a lot of orders from America that they post, and of course they're finding now that's not possible. And because the argument is still, like if you listen, like I was watching the news ABC News here, and they're all talking about, we don't know who, where you. There's no organisation with it, because where do you pay the tax? Is Australia? Are you paying it at Australia Post? And Australia Post said, we're not doing that. We're not taking that responsibility on. Does does it get paid at the other end when the goods get picked up? They're not doing that. No. So So here they are saying, well, here's a tax on it, but they're not actually giving the information of how do you pay that tax. So what that does, it means that they can't really send the orders, because they'll just end up in situ somewhere where, generally speaking, some of these companies that are posting these orders, they don't get paid until it gets collected from the other end, whatever, whether it's via courier or post or whatever. I think so. So none of those details are in place, which makes it hard, even if you're prepared to still send those orders and pay the tax, which is the American people who will pay the tax at the other end on the retail price. Not Australia, government won't be paying it, not Australia Post. But what it does is slow down sales for those private enterprises, because a lot of those sales would be lost, because it'd be price point would be out of reach. And so that affects not just our economy, but it also affects the American economy as well, because there are other people or agents in America for a lot of these different companies that, they will not be able to afford to. There just won't be the sales there, because it'll put a lot of products out of price range for the average American person.
And the big impact is on small businesses.
Yeah,
especially
that's where it starts.
And makers.
And do you think Trump will care about that? Of course not.
No,
or his administration. They will not give a hoot.
Yeah. So,
and that's okay, because even Americans don't have to give a hoot, right?
Yeah.
But it is destructive on the relationships between countries.
I was just going to say, this is
that's where the real destruction is. Yeah,
and especially now that there's a lot of online sales.
Yes,
there's the people I know from past life stuff, and and all their sales are slowing down. It has been up and down anyway. And they're now looking like everybody else, even though they're only a small business, they're looking to increase their sales in other countries that, focus more their marketing instead of America. I mean, obviously, everyone, if you're a small private enterprise and you've got an online business, you market it towards America because it's a big market, right?
And I think Australia suffers a lot with products coming over here as well.
Turn the kitchen lights off, because all the little streams of the light are coming through. We've got all this summer's coming back now.
Star Trekky this week.
We're very Star Trekky this week. So Alexa, kitchen lights off. Yeah, beam me up, Scotty, would be wonderful. That's better. Oh, look at that. We've just got the sunlight coming in through the atrium.
Alexa didn't beam us up.
And yet, even though I've got all this beautiful, that atrium there, I've got all my herbs. Guess what, guys? I still can't grow herbs. I have many talents.
A virtual terrarium.
I did not get the garden gene at all. I wish I have. This one's got the garden gene. I have to say, what have I done wrong? Anyway, yeah, sorry, I just wanted to speak into that, of what you're talking about, because this is the stuff that happens on the ground level that we're no longer talking about. We're talking about the big stuff. We're talking about the performance theatre stuff, the political performance theatre all the time. So I want to bring it always back to, well, what's happening on the ground level? Has it started affecting us here as a country on the ground? Yes, it has. In many, many cases. Not just to do with the AUKUS deal, but now we're talking about private enterprise and online businesses, that their sales are going to slow down. Will they find other markets? Yes, of course they will. They'll just have to work harder for it. But it is an unknown arena. It's like starting again, really, isn't it? Because it takes you time to build those relationships. It takes you time to build that trust, especially at the smaller private enterprise level. Anyway, I had my little rant now. So,
and I'm just sizing up this cake, which is absolutely delicious.
Yeah.
And cacao, cocoa, I don't think it matters.
No! Well, you wouldn't know it. It is lighter, though. Do you think it's not as chocolatey?
Yes.
It's kind of lighter.
Yeah. It's a little bit more like a red velvet cake. It is a red velvet cake.
Well, it's meant to be a red velvet cake.
Okay,
what
my question is, what makes a red velvet red velvet? What's
the dye?
The dye.
It's essentially chocolate cake
with red dye.
With red dye.
Oh, so it doesn't taste like...
No, but when I make it, what I use is beetroot chocolate
right,
powder.
Okay.
Yeah, and then you get the red and the chocolate.
Right,
it is delicious as well. Yeah. And it's in there in the pantry, but
nice
she didn't find it. I was upstairs that day.
Look, and big news in Australia is the CIA have announced that there is a connection, Iranian connection, to two of the attacks on a Jewish synagogue in another place, and no release of details there, and it wasn't actually the people who have actually physically done the attacks are not. There's no connection. So I'm very interested to see the full details, but we probably will never see the full details. But Australia's just announced that it is that the Iranian ambassador has 48 hours or something, very minimal time to leave Australia.
And and look, I understand that. I know you have a different feeling about it, but I actually understand it as a security measure. It doesn't affect the Iranian people who live here. Not fully.
So the Iranian ambassador's here?
In Australia, yeah. The Australian ambassador.
They have an embassy here. Yeah.
Oh, so they want the Iranian embassy to leave Australia?
Yeah.
Right.
The ambassador.
They have to prepare for the worst, unfortunately.
I guess for me the context is so Julian Assange just put out a warning, and I find it very that the US is priming people for a war with Iran, and then this happens. And we know this, and we know what's happening in
a lot of the time when we hear about something like this, they've already been planning it for 3 or 4 years.
Exactly, and that's
5
why
years, 6 years, 10 years.
I think we need to be aware that there are.
I agree.
We were just talking about intervention from the US and interference from the US and Israel is,
heinous at the moment.
It is. It's and I find it interesting that this would happen a week after, our last podcast where Albanese has supported the two-state solution.
Yeah. And
Netanyahu once again is interfering in the sense of calling out our leader as weak.
Yes.
And thankfully, Minister Tony Burke, his rebuke is, well, it is not strong to kill children and...
That's right. That does not show strength. Actually, that shows weakness. If you have to attack civilians and in particular children and basically starving children to death from the genocide side, if you need to do that to win the war or to win whatever it is that you think you need to win...
And to kill every last journalist.
Then you're the weak one.
Yeah.
If you cannot use strategy and intelligence and diplomacy to achieve what you need to achieve, then guess what? You're the weak one. Netanyahu, sorry, but you're the weak one, not our government.
And Bob Carr has weighed in, as, a wise ex-leader. Well, in my eyes, he still is a leader. From, was he the New South Wales? He went to federal as well. Yeah. But he's explaining that the Israel lobby has offices in every state in Australia, and that they heavily lobby our politicians. So I guess that's all. It's the context.
Look,
that's common knowledge.
Yeah.
And there's lobby groups, but that Israel lobby has such inroads into Australian governments, and that we, the people, have put these politicians in. They should be representing us, not international concerns or. And on top of that, I think there is, for me, it's a growing awareness that it's our corporates that are really interfering, more so than governments.
Yeah, well, of course, because for them it's about, money and making money. But also the other thing too, that one of the tradies that was here the other day doing a quote for the bathroom.
Love conversations with tradies.
Yeah, I love my conversations with my tradies. And he brought up about, what was it? You were just talking about what you were talking about. And we were talking, we were talking about the possibility of interference. We were talking about Peter Thiel and how Planters sort of, does the intelligence of AUKUS and that. Anyway, there's been no further information about that. But no, that's what it was. We were talking about I know it was my physio. It was my physio that we were talking about it. And we were talking about, he got caught in traffic in the middle of the day on the freeway. And now, Perth has always been a fairly quiet place, a wealthy place with the mining, but, quiet place. And, we get people who come and work in the mines for a couple of years and then go back to the States and go back overseas. But in recent years, where our population is growing, we have a housing problem like most other cities in the world, I think, where we just don't have enough housing for the amount of people looking, whether it's to buy or rent. It's a difficult, situation. And that has been on the increase in Perth, and the amount of people, that even just that now peak hour traffic starts at 3:30 in the afternoon. It used to be like 5 to 7 or 5 to 6:30, and now it sort of starts about 3:30 all the way through to 7:30. That you have, back off the freeway, and we're putting in new freeways and putting in new roadworks, but not fast enough probably. But the other thing was, he said, every time I look at what the 10 top cities to live in the world, with all the stuff that's going around the world, and Perth's in the top 10 every time, and that scares the shit out of me, because how would we even cope? Let's say people start having to leave their own countries for various reasons, war zones and that, and we've been,
that's ongoing.
Yeah, like where are we going to put them? And that's a real problem. But also the fact that it's also attracting all the billionaires. That's hence why Peter Till's interested in Australia. He's already secured himself nicely in New Zealand, and that gives him a doorway into Australia automatically, because we have that kind of relationship with New Zealand. But there's others as well, behind the scenes that we don't necessarily hear about, and they're all got this new fascination, not just with Australia, but in particular Perth, Western Australia. And we're like a big country town here, really. We're like a quiet city, really. Well, we're not anymore. We're not anymore. But we live a very, very good life here, really. And that's a wonderful thing. But that may well change if we start getting an influx of people who are, billionaires who have power, and then on the other side of the coin, refugees looking for, sanctuary. And do we have the infrastructure to support it? Not at the moment, we don't. So we don't even have enough infrastructure to support our own people. So I don't know how that looks in the future, but it is scary to think about.
Well, I'm going to bring that to Longpa, because, and I think that's part of the reason why we started this podcast. Yeah. Not just to solve.
Well, things, apparently we're a hybrid. We're not quite a podcast. We're not quite a vlog, and I quite like that.
What are we then?
I don't know. We're a hybrid.
For the Geraldine.
That's what all the young kids are telling me.
Kelli and Stephanie show.
Yeah, all the nieces and nephews who are all pretty much Gen and millennials. They all tell me we're a hybrid. Let's go with that.
Yeah.
I quite like that.
Well, what I found what's fantastic, and this is the second read actually, Long Path, is one of the concepts he's talking about, and he's from the US, and he's interesting. In his introduction, he talks about how his father was lost his parents in the Holocaust, and then and his mother is an artist and progressive and future. A visionary artist. Well,
nice.
And so he's a combination of those. And as he says, his father was always dwelling on the past and history, and his brother was always. And then he spent, weekends in cultural institutions, going to galleries, and so he had an incredible combination of things in his upbringing that somehow made him a deep thinker, obviously. And someone who could see that, and he's working with a lot of corporates and lots of groups, and realizing, hey, we're all living in this very short-term thinking, and how do we, basically unstick that, and how do we move towards
that longer? Suggestion?
Well, he's really looking at empathy, how he. Empathy for the future.
Isn't it interesting how empathy is the thing that brings us back to reality? Because if we can't actually empathise with what someone else's situation is and find compassion for that, no matter how much we agree or disagree, right? Just being able to have enough empathy to have the conversation, we're screwed.
Yeah.
If we can't do that, we're screwed. And that's when you say that he said that, that's what it feels like to me.
Yeah,
like, how can you possibly look into the long term if in the short term you can't even find empathy?
Wow, we can get very much hypnotised with all the problems. And that's
the hardware,
yes,
going back to our title,
Yep.
that's the hardware of it, but the software of it is without allowing empathy and compassion within those conversations, research, moving forward, whatever, all the elements of it, it's impossible to see what the long-term outcomes are going to be. Because you're doing it for a more calculative, and I get that the calculative side is also important. You've got to have the macro micro in together at the same time, I believe. But without that empathy, he's right. It's very difficult to plan for the long term.
Well, it just reminded me of the longest pause I've ever heard on radio, which was on my favourite station, RTR FM. Shout out to RTR FM.
Yeah.
And an interviewer was interviewing Archie Roach and asking Archie what his goal was. And Archie did the longest pause, and his goal, and I remember it word for word, for it was many years ago that I heard the interview, but he basically said for my children's children to be proud of me and to be, basically to flourish. I went, wow. And that's, that was one of the many sort of cues into, our
can I just ask you a question?
Brothers and sisters, and I thought, wow.
You assume, certainly, probably one of the more positive sides of the baby boomer generation is they did care about legacy and what they were leaving behind. I don't think people think about that too much anymore. And you have to remind them. I know I have to. Friends who've got children or just have, some who are just having children now, they're in their 30s, and saying to them, okay, you can have conversations about, whether it's political or spiritual or any conversation, and maybe disagree on something, and I say, but how does that play out for your children? If you're choosing to do that now, and let's say as an example, we're talking about climate change, and you're talking to someone who has children that doesn't believe in climate change, and yet we know the evidence is there. And if you go through the conversation you're having with them and you're sort of giving them the facts and the figures, and they're sort of looking at you and you say, well, I don't care, it doesn't affect me. And I have to say that they forget. I say, no, but it will affect your children and your grandchildren. And even then sometimes they'll say, but I won't be here, they'll have to deal with it. And I said, does that not bother you? I think that's the difference. I think, and they're not bad people. They're not bad parents. I just think it's a different mindset now. I think that they're so present in the chaos of now, they're not actually thinking about all the decisions you make now and all the things you do now, how that's going to play out for their children and their grandchildren, their great-grandchildren. I just don't think people think about that too much anymore.
I don't know. I know from coming from our kids' point of view, they do.
Yeah,
your kids do. Your kids, but I'm saying the parents of those kids,
but our kids are so on the board
are
with this
escaping the responsibility of taking, it's one thing to blame baby boomers for the situation we're in, and that's right. I've said before, 100% right. But it doesn't mean that you disown the responsibility for your part in it.
Yeah.
So I'm talking about millennials actually that I talk to. It's like they care, they don't care, they care, they don't care.
Yeah.
It's PC rhetoric rather than real. What do you really think? Do you really think that this is going to happen? And that's the difference. Whereas, I'm
just thinking, I'm thinking about our audience, what do people really think?
I'd love to get people's feedback on that. And I think the Z-Gens are the opposite in that they do stand up and say, you've handed us a bag of shit, guys, and we're the ones that are going to have to clean up your mess. and the least you can do is care about it. So they're angry about it, which rightfully so, I need to be, because they need that anger to drive. This is their movement as much as our movement was, the feminist movement and and the gay community stuff and all that. That was in our time. This is their time. But it doesn't mean any person along the way, whether it be the parents or the grandparents, give up responsibility. Or you can't just hand the responsibility over to the next generation and say, see ya, I'm out of here, sorry for the mess, which I feel happens sometimes. People, it's about half and half, it's about, anyway, I don't know, what do you think?
Do what you can when you can.
That's true too. As an individual,
I'm simplifying things, but yes.
Yeah, no, it is.
Do what you can when you can.
Yeah, because it is. You can't be perfect with it because we live in a world that's imperfect, and so even if you do, you're an activist and you do everything you can towards fighting against people who like climate change and all that sort of thing. It's a bigger picture. I get that, but and you can only do what you can do in your life.
Well, I'd love to hear what people who are watching this think.
What's their thoughts?
What are your thoughts about where we're at and perhaps some
and the
ways forward and perhaps how you approach this?
Yeah, where are your kids at?
If
you're millennial parents, where are your kids at? If you're, not many C-gens would have kids yet, I wouldn't think, but maybe a few.
Well, actually, I did read this week about the Depression year. People of the Depression years were called the Silent Generation.
Yes, right. Yeah.
And so I had heard that as a title, but what I really hadn't reflected on was that was because of the collective trauma of the First and Second World War that they were.
Or just really the Depression years, the starvation. And,
yes, exactly. But there was the repercussions of world wars, and the reason why I reflected on that is I thought about us sending the Iranian ambassador home and not actually addressing things that are happening in Israel, and that we and hoping that we don't fall into complacency or not reading the signs, that we have foreign entities that are trying to push us into
Well, I think that's the trauma, though.
Let's hope
but I think that's trauma too. What trauma does to people is, if you're having to deal with trauma on a daily basis, which at the moment your war zones are, and in America, I see America as a version of a war zone, really. I just don't think they know they're in it yet. But I do feel that they are.
Yeah.
What are you doing, Giz?
He's
having a little scratch. Is that right? Anyway, I do think that unfortunately, and this is why Trump creates all this chaos all the time, and it's not just Trump; it's other parts of the world.
So
if you constantly are putting out these big performance kind of theatre, kind of that it's designed to normalise trauma, chaos, and unfortunately it does. People. Eventually you become numb to it, because if you don't, you won't. It's hard to survive it, isn't it? Emotionally, mentally,
and also we were talking about people who are vulnerable, and it's really marginalising people. So, and there's a lot of kickback. So
and that's also part of the playbook, as we said a few weeks ago. It's very much about getting rid of the weak. We don't need them. That's what they called it. That's what they called it, Stephanie. They called it alligator. It was sacred land, had a moat around it with alligators, so they decided to build this prison there, a concentration camp, really, to put all the migrants that were waiting to be.
Is that what he
And he tried. He was going to. He wanted to, and of course, obviously somebody somewhere along the line said that's impossible physically.
What's going on?
Because the building was too old, that's why it's a museum.
Yes.
And so their solution to that was to create alligator Alcatraz, which was actually on the Indigenous land, by the way.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's been a big fail, but it doesn't mean he hasn't got other ones popping up all over the place.
Yeah.
I think it was 11 in total that they were designing a building.
And I thought, well, what's just looking at the crises of
Gizzy, are you okay, love?
so many countries, whole countries being put into refugee status.
Yeah, they've even been arresting citizens and holding them for 2 or 3 days. If you're brown, baby, in the truck you go.
If you live in a brown country,
and they're walking around with their masks on so that they can't be identified. That's all playbook, autocratic playbook stuff, 100%.
Yeah. Anyway, it's interference.
It's to
and
numb
guess
you.
what? It is. Yes, that's right. And also, guess what? Who pays?
Only the people.
The people.
Only the people.
Yep.
Certainly not those at the top, that's for sure. They go off in their little gold carriages, don't they?
Yeah, so there's some tools for deliberating our collective future.
And what are the tools?
Well, there's quite a lot. So, I mean, we could go through it. We could have a workshop if you like.
No, just do a quick bullet point.
Yeah, so I guess one of the things, let me look at my notes, was, so the subtitle is Becoming the Great Ancestors Our Future Needs. I didn't sort of call that out. And I guess looking at, what is our desired future and how do we get there? And so it's a good read. And really deliberating on us being working together as Homo sapien, and we know that racism and separation and all of that is designed for somebody to profit, but it doesn't profit humanity.
No, not in any way, shape or form.
Yeah, talking about imagining 4 generations ahead, same as the great Archie Roach, R.I.P.
Alexa, kitchen lights off.
Okay.
Somehow the lights just keep coming back on. We've got a ghost. That damn ghost again.
And what messages do you have for your descendants? So I guess you could do it as a meditation if you'd like. And what ethics and values do you hope they'll carry on in their own lives? Just thinking ahead. What a major concept. Beyond today, beyond the next hour, beyond the next week, beyond the next month before, it's Christmas.
Hi, Kiss. Kissy's up.
How would your descendants view a decision you made today?
What do you reckon, Kiss? You don't have any descendants, baby. No, not just ancestors.
He's here to look after us. So.
Got siblings though out there somewhere.
And I love this one. What internal work are you doing, or do you need to do, that they will thank you for? I like that. That's very powerful.
Yeah.
And what do you hope they'll leave behind or move beyond?
Do you want to get out, baby? Sorry to interrupt you, Dov. Do you want to get out? Or you want to get out?
A little bit edgy, isn't he?
No, you just want some cake.
Oh my goodness.
Do you want some cake, Giz?
Gizzy would have some cake.
Gizzy would have whatever human food is available to it for him to have.
What regrets do you have to share? So what words of inspiration? So write a book to your future generations. Or write some papers.
First we should write a book to ourselves.
True.
That kind of feeds in a little bit to what today's subject is about, just to get back to that.
What's my purpose?
What's your purpose? Look at that, the lights came back. I told you we've got a ghost. What the hell? Upstairs, I wake up in the middle of the night and my wardrobe light's on. And we all know, from the last few podcasts, that I do have ghosts in my life. But yeah, so it seems like we've got a new ghost. Like we live next door. I live next door to a nursing home, and so when someone passes there, they tend to pop themselves over here. Anyway, strange.
So anyway, welcome to all the ghosts
Can
around.
you, whoever you are, can you please leave those lights off, because we've got streams of light coming down our screen. Are you listening, Mr. Ghost?
Get out of the kitchen.
It's a mister. It's a mister.
Yeah.
Alexa, kitchen lights off.
Okay.
Thank you, Alexa.
Mr. Ghost, please leave them off. Thank you. See? Dancing hands. I'm taking the piss out of Trump. Sorry. Just a little sideline.
I don't know, as the world is, and it doesn't seem to be having any impact.
That's it. Anyway, so basically, talking about like doing the inner reflection stuff. You can't pass this stuff on, right? If you haven't done the work yourself.
Yes, exactly.
Well, you pass on whatever it is that wherever you're placed with it all, really.
Were you trying to get my cake?
anything. But yeah, like we were talking about just earlier as we started, the girls were saying it's you're saying it's the hardware, not the software, and I'm saying no, I don't know how that got mixed up, but it's not the hardware, it's the software. It's not the hard drive, hardware, whatever you want to. The hardware is the corporeal, the body, right? The physical body. That's the reference I was making to it. And the software, if you like, is the consciousness that lives within the body and leaves the body. What?
That makes more sense now.
Yes!
That's why I was asking you all these questions last week. I was like, I don't understand.
Yeah,
We were confused last week.
I can see why you were confused. You just kind of got them back to front. No, I don't know how it got translated that way, but anyway, we're back on track now. And then with that, just sort of speaking into that, if you look at it, collective consciousness. So individual consciousness makes up collective consciousness. I think we all understand that. Going back to, again, if you just think of it, I love this metaphor. The grain of sand, we are the grain of sand, but we are also the desert. And we don't disbelong. We're not separate to it. And I think the problem is that mostly in our emotional, mental state of being, we think we are separate to that. And I often look at all these crimes and heinous things that are happening on the global level. Those who are war criminals. And I think they have no idea, as much as they think it's about winning, that whatever they do to others, they actually are doing to themselves on a collective level. And that might sound a bit far-fetched and a bit out there, but it's not really. If you think of, every single grain of sand makes up the desert, there would be no desert if that wasn't the case. So even if somebody's over the other side of the Sahara Desert, right, a grain of sand right over there, doesn't mean you're not connected through the desert, because you are. So taking that into account, if we look at, often people sort of want to ask me the question about the distinction. What I believe is the distinction between the soul and the spirit. The spirit is that, for me anyway, is the higher self. It's when I had those near-death experiences, and I've had a few, I don't take my personality with me. It's a very peaceful, steady, calm pace, and I know that I'm sitting in my own consciousness, which is the spirit of me, which is connected to the greater I am, if you like, the bigger collective picture, which I see. You can call it omniverse, you can call it universe, but for me, it's eternity. And what does it mean to be part of eternity? It means that you're ever existing. You continue to exist regardless of what form you take. I believe in past lives, so I believe, from life to life. What carries you if here we are in humanity and on this planet, as an existence, as a collective existence, as an individual existence. And I believe each time you come back, you're gathering more information, learning more things. And that's the soul. And the soul is born by your own higher self, if you want to call it that. I call it the spirit of who you are, the spirit that is great, part of the eternal conversation. And I think that soul that is born and then gathers the memories from every experience that has, not just during a lifetime, but, or past lives, but also into the future. It's all happening. If you're thinking about quantum physics, it's all happening at the same time, right? But there's the soul that collects the memories and holds the memories so that when you go into your next story, you're already taking that information with you. And maybe you didn't quite get it the last time around, and so you're needing to redo that. And that's that kind of, sometimes people can feel like they're caught in a loop because they're repeating the pattern. probably sometimes lifetime. Maybe it takes 100 lifetimes to learn one lesson, and other times it can take half a lifetime to. And I only, this is my truth. I'm not saying it. I'm not suggesting to anyone else that it, should be their truth in any way, shape, or form. Everybody has their pathways to, being whatever it is that they're looking for. But for me, that fits. That I've done a lot of, looking at multiple different religions, but in the end, it came down to just coming back into yourself. That same old story. It's an inside story. Do the business with your own self, and then that plays out automatically in the world. And I think I can tell you a little story where I really trusted that. I didn't trust that first. I always felt like, and I think a lot of us feel this way, that we have to fix things, especially the people we love and we're invested in and everything. And if you see that I don't know, I'm sure there's lots of other fix-it people out there, but I was definitely a fix-it person. I come from a family of fix-it people, probably 3 generations of fix-it people.
Count me in on that one.
Yeah. And so you always feel like you have to fix it. And when I first came home to Australia after living overseas for some time, and Melbourne before that, I thought I had the opportunity to go to South Africa and work there for a couple of years. And the same company at the time said, we also have a place in Perth that you can. And anyway, I didn't want to go back to Perth. I didn't want to come back here. I wanted to continue, on my adventures. Yep. So I booked and paid for a ticket to South Africa from London. I was working in London for a couple of years then that, finished, and I was, going to go and do a couple of years in South Africa. Anyway, at the last hour, the company that I brought my air ticket through went broke. What?
The lights have come back on.
Oh my God. Oh, sorry guys. The lights got... I don't know what to tell you. If I keep... Alexa, kitchen lights off.
And keep it off.
You got to tell the ghost that.
Off.
Be our friend, whoever you are. Stop putting the lights on.
I'm finding it amusing.
It is amusing. I have to live with it all the time, so no surprise to me. Anyway, so basically what happened was this little travel company that I brought my ticket with went broke during that time. Brought them 6 weeks before I was meant to leave. And all they could give me was then my friend, she said, I'll sort this out. When she came in, on one hand, she said, I could either, it's lovely, isn't it? I can either give you a direct flight home to Perth or a direct flight to Johannesburg, but that's your choice. So you have to make a decision. If you make it, because my plan was to go to Johannesburg, meet the people, do I want to stay there, and then go home for Christmas, and then go back to Johannesburg if that's what I decided, or stay in Perth if that's what I decided, to work for them here. And it was really interesting because it was a choice for me I knew if I went to South Africa, I'd probably end up living my sister's life, probably end up marrying, having kids, and running a hotel or something with someone. Or do I come back to Perth? Now, I had no idea about art school then. I didn't see that coming. So I was just thinking about need to get home and work. But the main driving force for me was I had always wanted to resolve whatever issues I had with my, the relationship I had with my father. We were a lot alike, so we used to clash a lot. And in my young 29, 30-year-old mind, I thought I should go home and sort that relationship, and also with my older sister, we had unfinished business as well. So off I come. So then I get here, but no one wants to play. I get here. I just that during all that period, I decide I'm going to go to art school full time. So all that played out. I worked for that company. I used to feel sick going up in the elevator, and I worked out a way. How can I work 5 hours a week so I can be at art school more and still pay my bills? And that's what I did. I worked out if I do 2 appointments. One of the I can get one. No, it was in the evenings anyway that we worked afternoons, evenings, because it was mathematics companies, so we were going to assess kids in their homes, and so after school. So I thought if I do 2 appointments, I can get one on the program from that, and I can live on that. And that's what I did. So I could go to art school more. But then things were not changing, like, and so I was pushing uphill all the time with it, and I was trying to get them to play with me and come on, we need to have this conversation. And they were not having it. They were not into it at all. And that was the fix it me that needed to fix it. And then all of a sudden, I remember coming back from one of my meditation classes, and I was just meditating again on the floor, and my cry out to the universe was, I don't know what to do. I came back to work on the relationship with my father and my sister, and it's not happening. They're not interested. What do I do? And straight away came back, do nothing. Well, telling a rescue person or a fix-it person do nothing is like foreign language. And I just went, what do you mean do nothing? Just do nothing. And I said, you're going to have to give me more information than that. What do you mean do nothing? I don't know how to do nothing. And straight away...
Quite explicit.
Yeah. And straight away I got, like one of those little downloads that you have of do nothing, go about your business, do the life that you want to live. Oh, my God, the lights have got turned back on again. I'm so sorry, guys.
It's all good.
Anyway, we'll leave them on. Maybe he just wants them on. But even though we've got streaks of light coming down over us on the film.
It hasn't impacted the streaks from what we can see on the screen.
Well, it has. I can see them from my angle.
No, but there were streaks before. Now there's streaks
after. Okay, I'll turn them off again. Alexa, kitchen lights off.
Okay.
I just want to
See what I
how long
mean?
Because I've been
Timing it.
That one was 4 minutes. I want to see how long
It's about
it takes
4
it
minutes.
to do the next.
I've noticed.
Well,
it's
it is a
regular.
newbie, and it'll take him a while to work it out. But that's one way that they can get through. I don't know why, but the new AI stuff is easier for them to control than the old kind of power switches. They seem to be able to do a lot more.
Tell
Anyway.
us your ghost experience, everybody.
Share your ghost experience with us.
Or do you think it's a ghost? Or do you
Share them
think
with
it's just
Geraldine. I've got
AI?
enough of my own to deal with on a daily basis.
Yeah, we don't want to turn it into ghost stories.
No, I don't need. No, definitely not. Anyway, so basically, the final kind of part of that conversation in my own consciousness was just get on with your life and lead by example. And for some reason, that part of me that needed to fix everything, it made sense.
Yeah.
And also, all of a sudden, I kind of felt like the world had been lifted from my shoulders. In that moment, I surrendered to the idea of what if I just did me and stopped trying to fix everything all the time? What would that look like? I mean, I channeled a lot of that energy into the artworks, of course, which was useful. Mm-hmm. It was a new way of doing business with that. But it was interesting that, and I could, there's no way in the world I would have believed you if you said to me then, this is going to sort things out. The things that you want to, that you feel that you need to sort. If you just get on and do you and just lead by example, whatever that means. If someone had I said, you're nuts, you don't know the situation. I wouldn't have believed them at all. I didn't even believe it when I heard it. But sure enough, 4 or 5 years down the track, Dad and I found a new place. We were completely in a good place. And after that, we sort of, all that old stuff just fell away. And we were always so much alike. We were always going to be good friends. But, it kind of moved into that at that point. And then years later after that too, Tracy found her way. And we are now good as well. And again, it wasn't... I didn't push it. I didn't ask for it. I didn't even have the conversation with it. From that moment on, that incident, I just kept just, doing me, doing my story. And somehow, and I remember the moment, it's one of those spontaneous things. You can't force it. And I remember the moment that I just looked at my sister and I said out loud to her, actually, and this only a few years ago, and I said, I really, really do love you, Trace. And she said, I love you too. And I'm like, no, I do. I get it now.
Really do. Yeah.
I had no
unconditional.
Unconditional. That's what it was. It was that complete unconditional. There was I just didn't feel any of those
Well, no, that gets
judgments
about,
or
yeah,
your head stuff.
Yep.
When you think you got to fix it, or you got to have the debate, or you got to have the conversation. And look, I'm not saying those things don't have their place in time and space, but I think the end point is always about surrendering, and that is taking it from the soul level. So the soul is the
Lesson.
Hello.
That was only like 3 minutes.
Yeah.
He's
okay.
getting faster.
Yeah.
I thought there was a regular pattern, so it might be a glitch in the system.
I was thinking, well, what if it's every 4 minutes?
Yeah.
But then there's something. But
Yeah.
it's not. It's different.
Yeah,
time.
it was different timing.
So,
Yeah.
because-
You probably usually if they keep doing it, they get faster at it
Yeah.
because they work it out. I hope this is not too weird for you guys. This is my
Right, if they're
life.
still listening,
I don't know
then
what to tell you. This is my life. I wake up every morning with all this. Sometimes in the middle of the night as well. But anyway, so the bottom line is what I learned about that whole process of it's not the hardware, right? It's the software, because the software is the soul and the spirit. That's what we need to... they're already joined. Well, I don't know what the right language... It's so hard to find the right language for this stuff. That's the bit that we need to reconnect and embrace with fully. And that is not something, again, that can be forced. The minute that you chase it too hard, it disappears. It's like meditation. When you're meditating and you're always looking for that experience of peace, that experience of bliss. Mm-hmm. The more you chase that, the more it eludes you. It's about just being present in the moment. And that might sound very sort of like, oh yeah, that's just, doesn't feel real to me. But it is real. If you can stay more and more present with your own story, then automatically these other things just fall into place. And that's when on that little bit in Beyond Survival that I wrote where I say, without force, without actually, it already is in existence. We don't actually need to make it happen. It's already happened or already happening. Mm-hmm. And so actually we end up getting in our own way by trying to fix it. So the minute that you take out the need to fix a situation or make a situation happen, somehow life balances it out. Because if you're taking care of you, again, it's that collective consciousness stuff. The more we take care of our personal business and, improve ourselves, that plays out on the greater picture, the greater collective. Because the more and more individuals who do their business with themselves, the higher consciousness, the collective consciousness. And it's not a matter of remembering it either. It is already. It just is. And when we can get out of our own way, then things just fall into place. We've got to stop pushing uphill. If we're having to push uphill all the time, that should be a red flag to say it shouldn't be this hard. Yeah. I'm not saying that life's not hard work. I'm not talking about that psychological side. I'm talking about on a greater spirit level, in the greater I am conversation. All these things are already happening. You don't need to make them happen. They're already there. It's already happening. I'm not explaining it very well because I don't have the language for it. It's just that knowing that happens.
Well, I think often we talk about being present.
Yeah.
And when you're present that you're right here. We're right here, everyone. We're right
here.
Yeah.
But it's the reason why chaos works, right? Because it keeps us trapped in that survival mode. Yes. And whilst you're in survival mode, can you be present?
Yeah, right now.
Have you ever had the experience of being present in a survival moment?
Well, that is very difficult.
It is very difficult.
Because you can't meet people, you can't meet the situation that you're
not really listening to anyone. You're not really listening to yourself. You can fake it, right? Yeah. Do you want a little bit? Oh, look all along. It was Stephanie. She was the ghost.
It was me, Stephanie.
How did you turn those lights on and off?
With great skill and expertise.
With her mind.
Anyway,
are these on?
No, I don't want those ones on.
Oh.
I'll just use it for the last bit.
Oh, okay.
I'll put that there for you, Giz.
Alright, because I'm going to have to run off anyway.
Yeah, let's just do it quickly. So. Now.
Don't mind me.
Are you right? Are you there, Geraldine?
Yep, I'm here.
Do you want to move that one out the way?
I'm present.
Steph?
All yours.
Remove that one. Anyway, so I'm going to put my glasses on for this so I can see. Don't know why. That's going to help me see any better, but it feels better. So, last couple of days ago, I posted episode 3, part B, which is basically about my near-death experience in the car accident. And just as I was editing it, I haven't talked to the girl Debbie, who I had the car accident with, for a couple of months now. Religious and political differences, I think, come to it. Okay. But I get a message from her, Geraldine, messenger message, saying, "Oh, Kel, I just had to connect with you. I'm just going through Catherine." What was I loading onto the last episode? Pictures of the road where we had the car accident, and Catherine, pointing out maps where Catherine was.
Ah.
So as I'm editing that scene, she's actually driving through Catherine with her husband, and hang on 2 seconds. Stand back over there really quietly for two minutes. 2 minutes.
He's probably got all his...
Yeah, just give me 2 minutes and I'll be with you.
Right.
All right. So, and basically, the synchronicity of it was that she, at the moment I was editing about that car accident in Catherine, she was driving through and had a whole kind of cathartic experience, and she said, "I didn't know I was going to react that way, going back to the accident scene and stuff like that." And for those who don't know, that's like 42 years ago now.
Wow.
Yeah, and I thought, how serendipitous is that at the same time that I'm editing about that episode about the accident about Catherine, and I'm literally posting pictures of the scene and the car, she's actually there with her husband on the roadside and going, Catherine was in Catherine. And then they went up to Darwin, and she drove past, her only reference point there was Casuarina Hospital, where I was eventually flown to by a flying doctor service. So how's that for synchronicity?
Wow. I think also there's...
I said to her, because it was a conversation backwards and forwards then, and I said, the podcast girls are going to love this as the synchronicity.
Yeah.
So,
well, I feel like it's some shared vulnerability there as well that brings you together.
Yeah. Well, hopefully she finds peace with it, because she was sort of saying she didn't recognise that she had business to do with it still. She was surprised, and I said, for me, I did the business with it years ago. I'm okay. You know.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was the little story I wanted to share, so we can sign off now. Thanks everyone for being with us today.
Thanks for joining us.
Leave your comments. We'll always reply.
Hope to see you next week.
Yeah, next week. And until then, over and out. Don't forget, laugh, love and breathe.
Love, love, love.
Love, love, love. More important. Over and out.